This is Community Radio Networks. It is the summer solstice today on this 20th day of June. We'll talk more about that in the course of our program, but we have all the information that you need to take on this first day of summer today. And we'll start with the world news. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news read by Shabnam Modgil. Tropical storm Alberto has just made landfall in Mexico, rumbling towards northeast Mexico as the first named storm of the season, carrying heavy rains that left 3 people dead. But Alberto also brought hope to a region suffering under a prolonged severe drought. Mexican authorities downplayed the risk posed by Alberto and instead pinned their hopes on its ability to ease the parched region's water needs. Tropical storm Alberto at Mexico's coast this morning, and there is a forecast of heavy rains and coastal flooding as it is slowing down a little bit towards Texas. Alberto, located about 40 miles east of Tampico in Mexico and 250 miles south of Brownsville in Texas, moving west at 13 miles an hour with sustained winds of 50 miles per hour with higher gusts. The first named storm of the hurricane season strengthened slightly last night as it moved towards Mexico's Gulf Coast, threatening rainfall of up to 20 inches there, as well as flooding and heavy rain in Texas. A record-breaking heat wave is affecting the Northeast and Midwest, with temperatures soaring 10 to 25 degrees above average and heat index readings peaking from 100 to 105 degrees in many locations. Cities in New Jersey and Pennsylvania activated city services to keep residents safe. Newark officials declared a code red for today and tomorrow when the heat index, a measure that combines temperature and humidity levels, could reach 101 degrees. 2 large fires in southeastern New Mexico and the South Fork Fire and Salt Fire have damaged or destroyed hundreds of buildings and killed at least 2 people. Approximately 1,400 structures have been lost in the flames, 500 of which are thought to be homes, and an estimated 8,000 people have been evacuated, according to New Mexico Governor Lujan Grisham. Democrats and Republicans in a bitterly divided Congress can agree on one thing. The U.S. needs more nuclear power to power America's rapidly growing energy appetite and fast. The Senate overwhelmingly approved a major bill to make it easier, cheaper, and faster to permit and build new nuclear reactors. The Advance Act, which passed with just 2 senators voting no, now heads to President Biden's desk for signing, which he is expected to do. Louisiana has become the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom, the latest move from a GOP-dominated legislator pushing a conservative agenda under a new governor. The legislation that Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed into law yesterday requires a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large, easily readable fonts in all public classrooms from kindergarten to state-funded universities. Major League Baseball held a moment of silence before each game yesterday in honor of Willie Mays, who died at the age of 93. All 15 games observed this moment of silence before the first pitch. This followed similar gestures honoring Mays that occurred at some ballparks as news of his death spread around the baseball world. His death came 2 days before the historic MLB at Rickwood Field game in Birmingham, Alabama, where he began his career as a teenager in the Negro Leagues. A special ceremony will honor his life and legacy before that game. And the baseball legend, whose remarkable career spanned 22 seasons, has died. This was announced by the San Francisco Giants. He was 93 years old. Inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979, was a 24-time All-Star and won 2 MVP awards, leaving a lasting impact on the sport of baseball. Quinton de Kock hit a blistering half-century as South Africa defeating a battling United States by 18 runs in their opening T20 World Cup second-round clash yesterday. The Proteas piled up 194 for 4 of their 20 overs after being put into bat before restricting the USA to 176 for 6 as the Super 8 stage got underway at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. However, the USA, who stunned former champions Pakistan in the first round, were close to another upset when Andre Ghose and Harmeet Singh put on 91 for the 6th wicket. Justin Timberlake's lawyer says he looks forward to vigorously defending the singer after he was charged for driving while intoxicated. The 43-year-old was arrested just after midnight for running a stop sign and failing to stay on the right side of the road. The incident occurred in Sag Harbor in the Hamptons, a popular holiday destination for celebrities in New York. Ecuador is suspending visa-free access for Chinese travelers starting the 1st of July, closing off a popular arrival spot used last year by thousands of Chinese migrants trekking to the U.S.-Mexico border. Ecuador has allowed Chinese nationals to enter its borders without a visa and stay for up to 90 days since 2016. But in a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Human Mobility has said it was ending that program due to the unusual increase in irregular migratory flows of Chinese citizens who overstayed their 90 days. Ecuador has experienced also a nationwide blackout due to a failure in an energy transmission line, leaving about 18 million people without power. And this outage affected critical services such as hospitals, traffic lights, and the subway system in major cities of Ecuador. Canada has listed Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization after years of pressure from opposition legislators and some members of the Iranian diaspora. Announcing this decision yesterday, the Public Safety Minister, Dominique LeBlanc, has called it a significant tool in fighting global terrorism. The Biden administration officials increasingly doubt that Israel and Hamas will reach a comprehensive ceasefire deal under the current framework, according to 4 U.S. officials familiar with these negotiations. As few as 50 captives are still alive in the U.S., according to U.S. officials' estimate. There may only be 50 still alive in Gaza. And the estimate said that it relies partly on Israeli intelligence. Gaza's death toll has hit 37,431 since the 7th of October, and 67% of water sanitation infrastructure has been destroyed in Gaza since that date, according to the UN Refugee Agency. Israeli forces, meanwhile, have pounded areas in the central Gaza Strip, killing 3 people and wounding dozens of others, while tanks deepen their invasion into Rafah in the south. And in its latest offensive update, the Israeli military claims it carried out an airstrike, killing a squad commander of Hamas's elite Nukba forces, who it said oversaw Hamas's sniper activities in the Beit Hanun area and had participated in the October 7th attack. And Israeli forces may have repeatedly violated the laws of war and failed to distinguish between civilians and fighters in the Gaza conflict, according to the UN Human Rights Office. Hundreds of people have died this week in Saudi Arabia from suspected heat-related illness while performing the Hajj pilgrimage. While the death toll was not immediately available, estimates have ranged now to almost 900. The 5-day Hajj pilgrimage is a sacred Islamic journey to the city of Mecca involving a series of rituals. It is one of the largest mass gatherings in the world, and this year attracting over 1.8 million people. While details surrounding the reported deaths not available accurately, temperatures this week reportedly surpassed 125 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, and over 2,700 people were confirmed to have been treated for heat-related illnesses. Police sealed off Kenya's national parliament today as anti-tax protests spread to more towns days after the government said it would amend a raft of levies in the face of popular opposition. After mass protests kicked off in the capital of Nairobi, the government agreed to drop, among others, a value-added tax on bread, a wealth levy on motor vehicles, and duties on imported wheelchair tires that have infuriated Kenyans. French President Emmanuel Macron is joining several African leaders today to kick off a planned $1 billion project to accelerate the rollout of vaccines in Africa after the coronavirus pandemic exposed gaping inequalities in access to them. The launch of the African Vaccine Manufacturing Accelerator, which will provide financial incentives to vaccine manufacturers, offered a momentary break for Macron from domestic political concerns as legislative elections loom on the 30th of this month and the 7th of July. Environmental activists sprayed an orange substance on Stonehenge to demand phasing out fossil fuels by the year 2030. The protest action was condemned by political leaders, including Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer. Just Stop Oil wants the next UK government to commit to a legally binding treaty to end oil, gas and coal extraction by the year 2030. And Tony Lee, campaign chief of UK Prime Minister Sunak's Conservative Party, has stepped aside after news broke of him being investigated for insider gambling. The campaign chief for British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives stepped aside 2 weeks before an election after reports he and his candidate wife were being investigated for betting on the election date. In an opinion piece published by The Guardian, Scotland's former First Minister Hamza Yousaf has said anti-Muslim sentiment in the UK and Europe is so mainstream now that politicians barely bother disguising it. He became the youngest person and first Muslim to hold the office of Scotland's First Minister, stepped down in April after his party's deal with the Green Party had collapsed. European Union ambassadors have reached agreement on a powerful and substantial new series of sanctions that are part of its ongoing response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the United States and several key allies, including the UK, are actively debating how strongly to commit to Ukraine's NATO membership at the alliance's upcoming 75th anniversary summit in Washington, with the US facing criticism from a variety of European countries for not being willing to go as far as several, especially those close to Russia's border, would like. Ukraine said Russia targeted energy facilities overnight as President Putin's forces continue attacks to disrupt the country's power system. The Chinese Foreign Ministry expressed sharp criticism of NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg's statement that allies in the alliance should impose a cost on China for its support of Russia and the war in Ukraine. NATO should engage in self-reflection rather than smear China, said Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian in Beijing. Russian President Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, meanwhile, agreed to provide immediate military assistance if one of them is attacked, reviving an agreement dating back to the Cold War. In a move likely to unsettle the U.S. and its partners, the two leaders signed the deal yesterday during Putin's first visit to North Korea in 24 years and called the pact the most powerful treaty signed between the two countries and one that elevates their ties to an alliance. Russian President Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signing this and pledging mutual aid if either country faces aggression, a strategic pact that comes as both face escalating standoffs with the West. North Korean leader pledging to unconditionally support Russia in its invasion of Ukraine during these talks with President Putin in Pyongyang yesterday. And South Korea said the deal will negatively affect relations with Russia. Seoul has not armed Ukraine due to policy of not arming countries engaged in active conflict, but South Korea's presidential office condemned this agreement reached by Russia and North Korea that vowed mutual defense assistance in the event of war and says it will reconsider its policy of limiting support to Ukraine of non-lethal supplies. South Korea is a growing arms exporter with a well-equipped military backed by the United States, has provided humanitarian aid and other support to Ukraine while joining US-led economic sanctions against Moscow, but it has not directly provided arms to Ukraine, citing a long-standing policy of not supplying these weapons if you are in active conflict. South Korea said this morning it would consider sending arms to Ukraine now, a major policy change suggested after Russia and North Korea rattled the region and beyond by signing this pact to come to each other's defense in the event of war. And during a visit to the South Korean capital this morning, German Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck expressed his thanks for the country's joint stance in support of Ukraine in its fight against the ongoing Russian invasion. And Russian President Putin stressed the importance of expanding his Vietnamese President Tho Lam on the first day of his state visit to the Southeast Asian country. The Russian leader also invited him to participate in commemorations in Moscow next year, marking the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. He arrived in Hanoi late last night after a visit to North Korea and is expected to attend a state banquet tonight after meeting with the General Secretary of the country's ruling Communist Party and Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh. The Philippines has accused China's Coast Guard of launching a brutal assault with bladed weapons during a South China Sea clash earlier this week, a major escalation in a festering dispute that threatens to drag the U.S. into another global conflict. And a group of senior U.S. lawmakers, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, met yesterday with the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile in India, sparking heavy criticism from China. The bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers, led by Congressman Michael McCaul and Pelosi, visited the 88-year-old Buddhist spiritual leader at his home base in the northern Indian hill town of Dharamsala. And it is China pressing India to restart direct passenger flights after a 4-year halt, but New Delhi is resisting as a border dispute continues to weigh on ties between the world's two most populous countries. India versus Afghanistan. As the excitement of the T20 World Cup continues to build, today's Super 8's clash sees India taking on Afghanistan at the historic Kensington Oval in Bridgetown, West Indies. Both teams have shown remarkable performances in the tournament, setting the stage for a thrilling encounter today. And former India pacer David Johnson has died at the age of 52. Former India pacer tragically passed away after falling from the balcony of his 4th-floor apartment in Bengaluru, according to a Karnataka State Cricket Association. He is survived by his wife and 2 children. Had been running a cricket academy near his home, but had reportedly not been in good health in recent times, and his sudden death has sent shockwaves through the cricket community, leaving many mourning the loss of a dedicated coach and a former player. The BCCI announced the Indian men's team matches for the 24-25 home season, which kicks off in September, and India will host Bangladesh for a 2-test series, following a 3-match T20I series with the limited overs fixtures in Dharamsala, Delhi, and Hyderabad. Next on the agenda is a gripping 3-match test series against New Zealand, and this begins in October in Bengaluru, with subsequent tests in Pune and Mumbai. Sebastian Farsis has said that the MHA has refused to renew his journalist permit and informed him about the rejection to cover the general elections. The French journalist claimed this morning that he was forced to leave India and forbidden from covering the 2024 general elections after the Union Ministry of Home Affairs refused to renew his permit, the second such claim in 4 months by a journalist from France. Uttar Pradesh is the worst affected for the heat wave after reporting 36 deaths, followed by Bihar, Rajasthan, and Odisha. The heat wave, the unrelenting heat wave, is sweeping large parts of India, claiming at least 110 lives and left over 40,000 people grappling with suspected heat stroke between March and today. Also, after remaining largely stagnant for 9 days, the monsoon has advanced into some parts of Vidarbha, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Northwest Bay of Bengal, sub-Himalayan West Bengal, and some parts of Bihar. The northern limit of the southwest monsoon is now crossing through the Amravati. And the IMD has also reported the conditions are favorable for the monsoon to further advance into the North Arabian Sea. Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and the Gangetic West Bengal remain parts of the sub-Himalayan West Bengal, parts of Jharkhand, more regions of Bihar, and parts of East Uttar Pradesh over the next 3 to 4 days. And it is Delhi's Health Minister Saurabh Bhardwaj who today said 380 people were admitted to government hospitals in the capital, while 14 have lost their lives due to heat-related cases in the last 48 hours. He added that 112 people had been discharged, while 118 were still admitted to hospitals in Delhi. Addressing a press conference, the Aam Aadmi Party MP accusing the BJP of sponsoring the water crisis in the national capital. Rajya Sabha MP Sanjay Singh from the Aam Aadmi Party today sought the India bloc support in the party's fight to get Delhi's share of water from Haryana. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh wished the President Murmu, and it is her birthday as Prime Minister Modi. Amit Shah and other BJP leaders extend wishes to President Murmu on her 66th birthday. Prime Minister Modi will commence his 2-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir today, will visit the Union Territory today and tomorrow to launch developmental projects worth over 1,800 crore rupees and participate in the International Yoga Day 2024 event tomorrow. He will also participate in Empowering Youth, Transforming Jammu and Kashmir, that event at the Sher-e-Kashmir International Conference Center in Srinagar. His first visit to Jammu and Kashmir after taking charge as the Prime Minister for the third time consecutively. And more than 7,000 participants will join Prime Minister Modi tomorrow in performing yoga on the banks of the picturesque Dal Lake. More than 24 students from different universities and members of various students' outfits detained this morning while they were protesting against the cancellation of the UGC NET examination and irregularities in NEET. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has launched a scathing attack on the Narendra Modi government over the alleged irregularities in NEET and the cancellation of this exam. He said that the Prime Minister is silent on the paper leak scandal because he's crippled, in apparent reference to the BJP's dependence on its allies, adding that his main agenda is the election of Lok Sabha Speaker. A batch of toxic illegal alcohol in India has killed at least 34 people, with more than 100 others rushed to the hospital, according to Tamil Nadu state officials. The deadly mix of locally brewed arak drink was laced with poisonous methanol. And it is said that these arrests have been made over the deaths and warned that such crimes ruin society and will be suppressed with an iron fist. Hundreds of people die every year in India from cheap alcohol made in backstreet distilleries. In the Tamil Nadu case that we are talking about right now, more than 100 people were hospitalized. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has also said that what was done by Narendra Modi to the economy with the demonetization has now been done to the education system. And Pakistan has said that India has no right to object to the references made to Jammu and Kashmir in the Pakistan-China joint statement issued in Beijing after talks between Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and his Chinese counterpart Li Qiang on the 8th of this month, and reiterated that it is an established fact that Jammu and Kashmir is an internationally recognized disputed territory. With more than 900 deaths reported during the Hajj rituals this year, which were marked by searing heat, Pakistan's Ministry of Religious Affairs asked the general public not to heed social media posts about the issues faced by the pilgrims, calling them inauthentic. The fatalities included at least 600 Egyptians, 144 Indonesians, 68 Indians, 60 Jordanians, 35 Pakistanis, 35 Tunisians, 11 Iranians, and 3 Senegalese. Shahid Afridi has denied claims that he endorses the Zionist movement shortly after Friends of Israel, a grassroots organization that advocates for Israel, posted a picture with the superstar cricketer, alleging he stopped to offer his support for our call to release the hostages. Rescuers have called off a search for a Japanese mountaineer who went missing a week ago while trying to scale one of the highest mountains in the northern part of Pakistan. Authorities said there was hardly any chance of survival for 36-year-old Atsushi Taguchi, whose fellow climber also died while scaling the 7,027-meter Spantic Peak, also known as the Golden Peak. The two went missing on the 13th of this month, and Hiraoka's body was found on the 15th. The Golden Peak is renowned for the distinct golden hue that is cast upon it at sunrise and sunset, making the peak a popular destination. Veteran labor unionist Karamat Ali has died this morning in Karachi after a prolonged illness, according to his nephew Abbas Haider, the joint director of the Pakistan Institute of Labor Education and Research. He was undergoing treatment at a private hospital in Karachi. He is also a founding member of various local and regional networks like the Pakistan Peace Coalition, Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, and South Asia Labour Forum. He was 78 years old, one of the founding members of PILA, and serving as its executive director. As the National Assembly is set to meet today after a week-long break to begin a general debate on the next fiscal year's federal budget, the PPP, a key ally of the ruling coalition, is wavering on whether to participate in these proceedings, citing differences and growing discontent with the government's decision to announce the budget without prior consultation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for you But I do have your financial news coming up in a separate segment on this first day of summer. We do have your financial news now coming up for you on this Thursday, the 20th of June. It is the summer solstice today and the first day of summer. And in the course of our program, we'll be talking more about it. But as far as the financial news is concerned, U.S. stock indexes set for gains early this morning as NVIDIA's record-breaking surge, which catapulted it to that title of the world's most valuable public company, is set to continue. Futures tied to the S&P 500 pointed up around 0.4% after the index closed Tuesday's session by securing its 31st record close of the year. Futures tied to the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite were up about 0.7%, leading the way higher. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures edged up a more modest 0.1%. NVIDIA shares gained 3% before the bell today, set to extend the semiconductor bellwether's lead as the world's most valuable company after partners Dell and Supermicro Computer received server orders for Elon Musk's AI startup. And NVIDIA, whose market capitalization surpassed that of Microsoft, was set to add more than $92 billion to its market value of $3.34 trillion. Families that lost loved ones in two Boeing 737 MAX crashes said that the company committed the deadliest corporate crime in U.S. history and asked the Justice Department to fine the company the maximum $24 billion it could face in a criminal trial. The families wrote to the Department of Justice asking for the fine as the U.S. government considers criminal prosecution of Boeing. The Justice Department said last month that Boeing's recent string of safety lapses and mishaps constituted a violation of its 2021 agreement that allowed the company to avoid charges for 737 MAX crashes in Indonesia in 2018 and in Ethiopia in 2019. 19 that killed 346 people. For all the mistakes and safety problems that Boeing has managed under CEO Dave Calhoun's watch, resulting in a dozen corporate whistleblowers, multiple groundings, and a chunk of a plane's fuselage literally blowing off in midair, virtually no one has held him to account. Not Boeing's board of directors, which has responded by lavishing him with a salary and stock options worth more than $20 million a year, plus a $45 million golden parachute when he retires later this year. Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, meanwhile, is set to mark its crowning achievement this month, ferrying 2 NASA astronauts on a round trip to the International Space Station, proving the long-delayed and over-budget capsule is up for the task. Starliner is halfway to that goal, but the 2 veteran astronauts piloting this test flight are now in a tentative position, extending their stay aboard the space station for a second time while engineers on the ground scramble to learn more about issues that plague the first leg of their journey. Spaceflight veterans Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore arrived at the space station aboard the Starliner, and NASA initially projected their stay would last about a week. Honeywell has agreed to buy aerospace and defense technology company CAES Systems for $1.9 billion from private equity firm Advent International to give a boost to the manufacturing giant's aerospace technologies unit. And a new line of personal computers specially made to run artificial intelligence programs has hit the stores as tech companies push towards wider adoption of ChatGPT-style AI. Microsoft unveiled last month the new AI-powered personal computers, or AI PCs, which will use the company's software under the Copilot Plus brand. And it is OpenAI co-founder Ilya Sutskever who announced a new venture called Safe Superintelligence Inc. The project will seek to launch a safe artificial intelligence, general intelligence, hearkening to OpenAI's founding goals, but without the current pressures from investors and consumers. IT service provider Accenture has projected annual revenue growth largely above estimates this morning as growing adoption of artificial intelligence offsets sluggish growth in enterprise spending and a strong dollar. Shares of the company rose more than 6% in pre-market trading this morning after having fallen about 19% this year on market expectations for subdued IT services demand. Citigroup Inc. said artificial intelligence is likely to displace more jobs across the banking industry than in any other sector as the technology is poised to upend consumer finance and makes workers more productive. About 54% of jobs across banking have a high potential to be automated. Joby Aviation said this morning the U.S. aviation regulator has authorized the use of the air taxi maker's in-house software to perform tasks such as managing pilot workload and matching passengers with aircraft similar to ride-hailing apps. Last week, the insurance company Nationwide announced that it was canceling coverage for about 100,000 animals across the country, citing rising veterinary costs. Nationwide said it was canceling this coverage and starting immediately and will continue through next summer as it looks to maintain long-term viability and profitability. The Dollar Tree is being investigated for allegedly leaving applesauce pouches that contained a heavy amount of lead on the shelf for nearly 2 months after they were recalled. The recall for the Wanabana apple cinnamon fruit puree pouches was issued months ago. However, public health officials across several states continue to report seeing them on shelves inside Dollar Tree stores. Alki David, Coca-Cola heir with a string of sexual assault convictions against him, has been directed to pay $900 million to a former employee. The celebrity hologram creator with string of sexual assault convictions against him now has to pay $900 million to a former employee by a Los Angeles jury, and this is said to be the largest ever award for sexual damages in history. Sources tell us that Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2 is heading for a near $30 million at the domestic box office, as big, if not bigger, than its $29.1 million on Tuesday, which was a record for an animated movie. Thousands of car dealerships were grounded to a halt during a normally busy holiday yesterday by a cyber incident at CDK Global, a major software provider for dealers across the United States. And Americans appear to be getting better at what they are putting on their plates, as a new study has shown that just 37% of Americans have a poor diet, which is down from 49%. A Texas doctor who calls himself a whistleblower on transgender care for minors is accused of illegally obtaining private information on patients from the nation's largest pediatric hospital who were not under his care. Dr. Ethan Heim, a 34-year-old surgeon, snatched the information and shared it with a conservative activist with intent to cause malicious harm to the Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. And Alan Sachs, who taught political science at UT Arlington for 55 years, has passed away this week. He was 85 years old and had retired in 2019. Started as a lecturer at UT Arlington, which was then Arlington State College, in 1965. He had previously spent 2 years at Oklahoma University, where he attended college. And a 5-year investigation by U.S. officials has uncovered a complex partnership between one of Mexico's most notorious drug cartels and Chinese underground banking groups in the U.S. that laundered money from the sale of fentanyl, cocaine, and other drugs. Associates of the powerful Sinaloa cartels conspired with the Chinese groups to cover up more than $50 million in drug profits, much of which was processed in the Los Angeles area. Italian sportswear brand Golden Goose has postponed its Milan IPO on the grounds that the European Parliament elections and the call for a snap election in France have led to significant deterioration in market conditions. Golden Goose, known for its worn-looking trainers, which have been made popular by celebrities such as Taylor Swift, was aiming for a market capitalization of up to 1.86 billion euros, which is $2 billion. Saudi Arabia has displaced China as the most prolific issuer of international debt among emerging markets, breaking Beijing's 12-year run at the top. Data for new bond sales by both governments and corporates this year revealed the kingdom is borrowing at a record pace as global debt investors began to back Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 plan. Chinese borrowers, on the other hand, are witnessing a buying frenzy in local currency bonds and have slowed international issuance to one of the slowest paces in recent years. Priyanka Chopra Jonas's former New York restaurant called Sona is set to shut its doors nearly a year after the actress withdrew her involvement as a co-founder. The announcement was made on Sona's official Instagram page yesterday, stating that the restaurant's final service will be brunch on Sunday, the 30th of June. She initially launched Sona in 2021 alongside her friend and former business partner Manish Goyal. The restaurant, named Sona, meaning gold in Hindi, was christened following a suggestion from the actress's husband, singer Nick Jonas. And despite opening amid the challenges posed by COVID-19 restrictions, Sona quickly established itself as a prominent fixture in New York's culinary scene. Currently, Priyanka Chopra is in Australia filming her upcoming movie The Bluff, stepped away from the Indian cuisine restaurant Sona in August of the previous year, and the decision to part ways came as she focused on other professional commitments, though her initial involvement had been pivotal in Sona's establishment and success. India's Financial Intelligence Unit has imposed a fine of $2.25 million on the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, for operating in the country in violation of local anti-money laundering regulations. And India's future unicorns, worth $58 billion, an increase of 1.8% as compared to the last year. India has 67 unicorns, 46 gazelles, and 106 cheetahs, against 68 unicorns, 51 gazelles, and 96 cheetahs last year. India has emerged as the most attractive consumer market across the globe, with the trends in consumption in smaller markets likely to merge with larger cities, and adding that India is poised to grow in the range of 6 to 10% over the next few years, barring any black swan event. The Indian rupee fell to a record low this morning, pressured by likely outflows and strong dollar demand from local importers. And the rupee declined to a lifetime low of 83.62 against the US dollar in the latter half of today's trading session. And the Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikant Das today said that the central bank's timely action has resulted in moderation of vulnerabilities in unsecured loans. The Indian telecom industry's gross revenue has surged 87% from the lowest point of financial year 19 to $29 billion in financial year 24. Soon after Mukesh Ambani's owned Reliance Jio launched services, global brokerage CLSA said this in a report. Engineering and infrastructure major L&T, Larsen & Toubro, has set up an all-women team responsible for repairing and handling large-size machines at its client Tata Steel's mining site in Odisha, inspired by the success of a pilot all-women team. E-commerce giant Amazon, which set up an all-women virtual customer service site in 2020, now also operates 9 all-women delivery stations across places in Surat, Chennai, Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh. India has become the largest market for Nestle globally for its instant noodles and soup brand Maggi, and the second largest for chocolate wafer brand Kit Kat. Besides, the Indian market with a high double-digit growth has become one of the fastest-growing markets for Nestle. And Coca-Cola India has sounded out the promoters of at least 4 top Indian business houses, including the Bhartiya family that owns the Jubilant Group running the Domino's pizza chain and the Burmans of Dabur, to sell a significant minority stake in its wholly owned bottling subsidiary Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages. Coca-Cola India announcing also the launch of its affordable small sparkling package with 100% recycled polyethylene terephthalate in 250 ml bottles starting from Odisha. Shares of Vedanta Limited climbed nearly 7% this morning's trade after the company authorized a committee of directors at its meeting held today considering and approving raising of secured rated listed redeemable non-convertible debentures on a private placement basis. Allied Blenders and Distillers, the makers of Officer's Choice Whiskey, today fixed a price band of 267 rupees to 281 rupees per share for its 1,500 crore rupee IPO. The initial shares sale will open for public during 25th to the 27th June, and the bidding for anchor investors will open for a day on the 24th of June. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has started investigation and will take action against several branded spice makers, including MDH and Everest, soon. And this was found in Rajasthan, these pesticides and insecticides beyond permissible limit, and this action could range anywhere between levying a penalty to recalling the products. In a significant milestone, the Indian Railways conducted a successful trial run on the newly constructed Chenab Rail Bridge, the world's highest railway bridge. This bridge connects Sangaldan in Ramban district to Riyasi. The Indian Railways had successfully conducted an engine trial run on this marvel of engineering last weekend. And the Enforcement Directorate conducted raids at 35 places associated with the Amtech Group in Delhi, NCR, and Maharashtra in connection with a bank fraud case of more than 20,000 crore rupees in several listed companies. Under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the ED raided places in Gurugram, Noida, Mumbai, and Nagpur, all linked to the Amtech Group, which was led by Arvind Dham, Gautam Malhotra, and others. Vehicular congestion and insufficient parking facilities are significant emerging challenges for India's mega and metropolitan cities, severely impairing mobility. Although curtailed by constitutional mandates, many Indian cities are seeking to resolve the issue through parking policies. India's urbanization is shaped by its overwhelming dependence on its metropolitan cities, home to 42.3% of its urban population. Diabetes cases in India are rising, with 101 million individuals affected. The International Diabetes Federation projects a 46% increase in global diabetes cases by the year 2045. And the bulls continued their stampede post-Eid as shares at the Pakistan Stock Exchange climbed more than at 1,700 points in intraday trade to reach an all-time high, which analysts attributed to the dovish outlook of rating agencies for the country. The government in Islamabad has lowered the projected public debt repayment target by almost 21%, and the Federal Board of Revenue has extended the deadline to September 16th for transferring pending cases involving multi-billion tax amounts to the Appellate Tribunal Inland Revenue to expedite the resolution. And as if unfavorable weather, low crop yield, and poor than expected produce rates were not enough. Further hammering of cotton growers is in store as ginners are likely to go on strike pending a final decision. An urgent meeting of the general body of the Pakistan Cotton Ginners Association has been convened at Sukur yesterday to discuss on the 23rd of June to discuss the situation arising out of new taxation measures in the textile sector in the federal budget. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you, but I do have your final segment of the program coming up on this first day of summer. It's the summer solstice today. The final segment of our program today on this Thursday, the 20th of June. It's the summer solstice of 2024, the earliest in over 200 years. It is occurring at 3:51 p.m. this afternoon. The summer solstice marks the longest day of the year, with the amount of daylight varying based on latitude. And the timing of the summer solstice also varies due to the Earth's orbit and the Gregorian calendar's leap year system. Tropical storm Alberto made landfall in eastern Mexico this morning, and while a few isolated showers are possible today and tomorrow, temperatures here will heat up into the weekend. Summer officially begins this afternoon, and North Texas woke up to a mostly cloudy sky. It'll be a different story across South Texas and the Hill Country as Alberto's moisture moves westbound through the state over the next 48 hours. The western third of the state will feel the effects of Alberto over the next 36 hours, but it's going to be quite hot and muggy today and tomorrow with highs in the low 90s. There is a slight chance of a late day shower. And then on some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, the 20th of June, way back in 1782. Congress adopts the Great Seal of the United States after 6 years of discussion. The front of the seal depicting a bald eagle clutching an olive branch in its right talon and arrows in its left. On its breast appears a shield marked with 13 vertical red and white stripes topped by a bar of blue. The eagle's beak clutches a banner inscribed E Plubrius Unium, a Latin phrase meaning out of many, one. Above the eagle's head, golden rays burst forth, encircling 13 stars. Charles Thomson outlined the symbolic connotations of the shield's elements when he presented his design to Congress. The bottom of the shield represents the 13 states united in support of the blue bar at the top of the shield, which unites the whole and represents Congress. And the motto serves as a textual representation of the same relationship. The colors used in the shield are the same as those in the flag, alternating red and white for the important balance between innocence and valor, topped by the blue of vigilance, perseverance, and justice. And the eagle's talons hold symbols of Congress power to make peace, the olive branch, and war, the arrows. The constellation of stars indicates that a new state taking its place and rank among other sovereign powers. So it was this Congress adopting this great seal of the United States on today's date in 1782. And during the Civil War, West Virginia is admitted into the Union as the 35th U.S. state, or the 24th state if the secession of the 11 southern states were taken into account. And the same day, Arthur Bowman was inaugurated as West Virginia's first state governor on today's date in the year 1863. On the 20th of June in the year 1900, Chinese nationalists behind the so-called Boxer Rebellion occupied the capital city of Peking, which was later named Beijing, and they killed several Westerners, including German ambassador Baron von Kettler, and besieged the foreign legations in the diplomatic quarter of the city. The occupation would last 55 days, and in response to widespread foreign encroachment upon China's national affairs, the nationalists had launched the rebellion several months earlier, first as a group of peasants calling themselves Aiho Chuan, or the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, and later reinforced by elements of the Imperial Chinese government and armed forces, and their goal to drive all foreigners from diplomats to missionaries to soldiers out of China. The Boxer Rebellion reaches Peking's diplomatic quarters on today's date in the year 1900. On the 20th of June in 1919, during the final days of the Versailles Peace Conference held in Paris in France, the German cabinet deadlocks over whether to accept the peace terms presented to its delegation by the other nations at the peace conference, most notably the Council of Four: France, Britain, the United States, and Italy, and ratified the Versailles Treaty. It was the German cabinet resigning over this deadlock on today's date in the year 1919. After a long and bitter struggle on the part of Henry Ford against cooperation with organized labor unions, Ford Motor Company signs its first contract with the United Automobile Workers of America and Congress of Industrial Organizations on today's date in the year 1941. President Franklin Roosevelt, allies in Congress, passed that landmark National Labor Relations Act, also known as the Wagner Act, after one of its authors, Senator Robert Wagner of New York, which established workers' rights to collective bargaining and attempted to regulate unfair practice by employers, employees, and unions. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, the man who brought organized crime to the West Coast, is shot and killed at his mistress Virginia Hill's home in Beverly Hills in California on today's date in 1947. Siegel had been talking to his associate Alan Smiley when 3 bullets were fired through the window and into his head, killing him instantly. His childhood had been pretty similar to that of other organized crime leaders. Growing up with little money in Brooklyn, he managed to establish himself as a teenage thug. And that was Bugsy Siegel, organized crime leader who was killed on today's date in 1947. The Flamingo Hotel is what he started, and best known for that, also in the middle of the desert, with $6 million, a chunk of which came from the New York syndicate of his crime scenes. And the Flamingo wasn't immediately profitable, and he ended up in an argument over paying back the money he used to build it. And around the same time that he was killed in Beverly Hills, it was some of his men who walked into the Flamingo and announced that they were now in charge. Even Siegel probably never imagined the astounding growth and success of Las Vegas in the subsequent years. But he was killed. The organized crime leader, Bugsy Siegel, killed on today's date in 1947. To lessen the threat of an accidental nuclear war, the United States and the Soviet Union agreed to establish a hotline communication system between the two nations. This agreement was a small step in reducing tensions between the US and the USSR following the October 1962 missile crisis in Cuba, which had brought the two nations to the brink of nuclear war. But both the countries agreed to establish a nuclear hotline on today's date in 1963. On the 20th of June in 1975, there was a movie that made headlines, and each one of you have probably seen it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the movie called Jaws, a film directed by Steven Spielberg that made countless viewers afraid to go into the water. And it was opened in theaters on this date in the year 1981. The story of a great white shark that terrorizes a New England resort town became that instant blockbuster and the highest grossing film in movie history until it was bested by 1977 Star Wars. As you listen in the background to the theme of Jaws, the movie was nominated for an Academy Award in the Best Picture category and took home 3 Oscars for Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. A breakthrough for director Spielberg, then 27 years old, spawned several sequels. Starring Roy Schneider as Principal Police Chief Martin Brody, Richard Dreyfuss as a marine biologist named Matt Hooper, and Robert Shaw as a grizzled fisherman called Quint. Set in the fictional beach town of Amity and based on a best-selling novel, it was released in 1973 by Peter Benchley. Subsequent water-themed Benchley bestsellers also made it to the big screen, including the movie called The Deep. With a budget of $12 million, Jaws was produced by the team of Richard Zanuck and David Brown, whose later credits include The Verdict, Cocoon, and Driving Miss Daisy. And the filming, which took place on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, was plagued by delays and technical difficulties, including malfunctioning mechanical sharks. But the movie Jaws put now famed director Steven Spielberg on the Hollywood map. Largely self-taught in filmmaking, he made his major feature-length directorial debut with The Sugarland Express in 1974, and the film was critically well received but a box office flop. Following the success of Jaws, Spielberg went on to become one of the most influential, iconic directors in the film world. With such epics as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan. E.T., Jaws, and Jurassic Park rank among the highest-grossing movies of all times. Jaws, released on today's date in 1975. Not so much as a band as an audacious business plan, a group called Stars on 45 climbs all the way to the top of the US pop charts on the 20th of June in 1981 with the single whose impossibly long title takes almost as long to read as the song itself takes to play. Medley, intro, Venus, Sugar Sugar, No Reply, I'll Be Back, Drive My Car, Do You Want to Know a Secret? We Can Work It Out, I Should Have Known Better, Nowhere Man, You're Going to Lose That Girl, Stars on 45. It was the summer of 1981, and after an 11-year hiatus, the sound of the Fab Four was once again ruling the radio airwaves. Only, instead of John, Paul, George, and Ringo, this time the world had to settle for Bas, Hans, Jaap, and Oki, the Dutch studio musicians behind this phenomena called Stars on 45 that you all may be familiar with. And that, ladies and gentlemen, happened on today's date in the year 1981. Here's the original version. The Stars on 45 formula, rousing commercial success. Not only did it produce a #1 hit, but it led to several follow-ups that charted in the Billboard Hot 100. And Stars on 45 medley 2, featuring more Beatles tunes. More Stars, this time exhuming several Motown hits. And Stars on 45 the third, a tribute to Stevie Wonder, spawned a dubious mini-trend of crammed-together medleys produced by others, including 2 top 40 hits in the Beach Boys medley and the Beatles movie medley.
Sugar, honey, honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you. Honey, sugar, sugar, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you.
Those, ladies and gentlemen, were some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, the 20th of June. And of course, it is the summer solstice today and the first day officially of summer. We have big thanks going out to the supporters of community radio networks. Huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, the Ahluwalia Law Offices, the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, Digital X-Force, Kinzer Law, Michaelachi, Ruchi Palace by Michaelachi, Sri Vimal, Vimal's Venue, Eggholic, Mystic Mandala, and Flash Brush Productions. Big thanks for your support of community radio networks. On the 22nd of June, which is the day after tomorrow, this Saturday, there is an International Day of Yoga, a seminar called Burnout to Balance, a day filled with activities for the body, mind, and soul. This is a free event at the Collin College Conference Center on Wade Boulevard in Frisco on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, early in the morning, 7:30 to 9:30, Mahatma Gandhi Memorial of North Texas, in partnership with the Consulate General of India, cordially invite you to International Day of Yoga 2024, Yoga for Humanity, from 7:30 to 9:30 in the morning at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Plaza. We do have the King's Return, which is presented by the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, and it's free for the public on Saturday, the 29th of June. As a special thanks for the community's support of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, Morton Meyerson is proud to present this free concert featuring the incredible talent of Dallas native King's Return, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday the 29th. And in the evening on Saturday the 29th, it is your chance to be swept off your feet by Shankar Mahadevan, Ehsan Nurani, and Loy Mendonça as they set the stage on fire with their electrifying music and soul-stirring melodies. Shankar, Ehsan, Loy, live in concert at the Toyota Music Factory in Irving. And that is a concert called Kal Ho Na Ho at 8 o'clock on Saturday the 29th at the Toyota Music Factory in Las Colinas. And that same evening, Saturday the 29th, Nan's Vision presents Dallas's Glamorous Night with Shilpa Shetty. 29th of June, 7 o'clock onwards at the Grandian Event Center in Frisco. Now, for more information to be a part of this Shilpa Shetty event, you can call 469-305-6836. 469-305-6836. As you continue watching the 2020 World Cup, it is India and Afghanistan that are playing right now. India has won the toss. And as the World Cup continues in the West Indies, it is the July tournament that'll also be starting soon. The 2024 Texas Super Kings, their season against the LA Knight Riders on the 5th of July at 7:30 at the Grand Prairie Stadium right here. Salim Suleiman will be in town on the 3rd of July, and Ellen DeGeneres in Dallas on the 10th of July. We do have a leadership workshop for the youth on the 12th and 13th of July at the Radhakrishna Temple all day from 8:30 to 5:30. Great leadership begins from within. So this event will be on the 12th and 13th of July. You do need to register at jkyog.org. Cricket Academy's grand launch is happening on Sunday, the 14th of July. Rohit Sharma, one of the modern greats of the game, opening his Cricket Academy in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And there is going to be a fancy schmancy meet and greet. And if you'd like to be a part of it, please call Shalu 201-245-6299. The Hitman is coming to Texas. Cricket Kingdom, in partnership with DFW Indoor Sports, is helping with the launch of the Cricket Academy by Rohit Sharma. Cricket Kingdom Cricket Academy, all set to make its grand debut in Dallas, 14th of July. And we also have a Carom Grand Masters tournament on the 19th, 20th, and 21st of July, and this one will be at the Holiday Inn on Central Expressway in Richardson. The U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce is partnering for a job fair, accepting applications there for various kinds of jobs. It's going to be hosted by Beth Van Dyne, the U.S. Congresswoman, in partnership with the Chamber on the 8th of August at the Texas Rangers Stadium. And that is the 8th of August. On the 10th of August, we have Yade, which is reliving the songs of Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, and Muhammad Rafi. The Chamber would also like for you to mark the 22nd of August for their Wellness and Workplace Conference. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it is the 47th Anand Bazaar, celebrating 77 years of India's independence on the 31st of August at the Frisco Rough Riders Stadium. And that is Anand Bazaar in celebration of India's independence. Please mark the 31st of August. Sister Shivani will be in Dallas. Please join the Brahma Kumaris in welcoming Sister Shivani, a globally renowned spiritual teacher and motivational speaker, as she guides us with ancient wisdom to bring hope and clarity in times of confusion and chaos. From 2 to 4 in the afternoon at the Credit Union of Texas Event Center in Allen. The Broadway-style play called Mughal-e-Azam, that musical, is coming back to Dallas on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of September, and there will be 4 shows for Mughal-e-Azam. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your social calendar as it stands on this summer solstice, the longest day of the year today as we start summer. Today is the first day of summer. And that is my show for today. I hope you found it very informative for you to take on the day. And for those of you that would like to reach me directly, my number is 214-675-1754.